Happy Monday. Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Cafe on Air podcast. As you know, I am Big Italy 42 here talking some NBA basketball for Monday. We have a 6-game slate tonight, pretty much par for the course as Mondays go. We've seen some big slates, some small slates. Last week was a pretty big slate on a Monday, but the 6 to 8 game type of slates are my favorite. Right in the wheelhouse. Plenty of options, but not too many options. So I actually like tonight's slate quite a bit. Not a whole lot of up and pace teams. Actually, a lot of slow pace tonight. But I'll get to that here in a few minutes. And looking at a couple of Vegas lines real quick. I'm going to run those down for you. Houston at Indiana. Indiana, 1.5-point favorite. 201 point total. Memphis, no surprise, a 13-point favorite at New York. 185 point total there. Boston at Brooklyn. Brooklyn, 4-point favorite, 202.5-point total. Charlotte at Chicago. Bulls come in as a 6-point favorite, 191-point total. Minnesota at Utah. Utah, a 12.5-point favorite, 186-point total. So definitely not a lot expected out of Minnesota tonight. And Washington at Golden State. Golden State, an 11.5-point favorite, 204-point total. So that right there, I mean, we've got 3 point spreads of 11 or more points tonight. So a little bit of blowout concerns, but on a slate like this, really can't get too involved in that. I mean, you got to just play the best players where you can play them, and I'll get into that here. Moving on to the positional breakdown. I'm talking FanDuel and DraftKings here, of course, and at point guard, top option price-wise here is Steph Curry. An option here to pay or stay away for Steph Curry. I think Steph Curry is a fine option tonight, but concern being that he's not playing a lot of minutes. He's got a floor of right around 30 to 35 fantasy points, but between 31 and 38 on FanDuel each of his last 4 games. So, yes, there's a chance he has a huge game. Does he need to have a huge game for Golden State to win? That's where I'm not sure. So, Curry, not a cash game necessity for me tonight. I think he's a fine play. If you want to put him in there, he's definitely got a safe floor. If Washington keeps it close, he's got a nice ceiling. But I think I'll be looking elsewhere. There's some cheaper options that I'll be looking at, but definitely get yourself some Curry in some tournaments. So next up, we've got John Wall. $9,600 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, once again, a very appealing price tag. Just $8,700. I like John Wall quite a bit in this one. A little bit of a disappointment last time out against Sacramento in an ideal matchup there, really. Just 26.5 DraftKings points there. But we know he's got significant upside, and John Wall likes to play well in these big games, in these big matchups. So him versus Steph Curry is going to be fun to watch tonight. I prefer John Wall a little bit more. I think Washington will need him to do more than the Warriors will need from Steph Curry. So I prefer Wall to Curry tonight, especially on DraftKings where he's just $8,700. Some other options. Finally back, finally playing well, back in his old role. Kemba Walker, $6,900 on FanDuel, $7,000 on DraftKings. He's finally getting the minutes, 31 and 34 his last 2 games, and he's producing 33 and 43 fantasy points. Tonight, all he gets is the best matchup on the board against a Bulls team who is allowing the most points to point guards since Derrick Rose went down. So, Kemba Walker, a great option for me tonight. I'll be playing him quite a bit tonight. I don't think Mo Williams is a terrible option in tournaments, but obviously I prefer Kemba Walker since he's back in the starting lineup. And that's going to be my dollar-for-dollar top play here. You've got other guys here. Lexi Shved left with a rib contusion last game. Not a great matchup anyway. He's questionable for tonight. Ricky Rubio questionable, as is his new tag for every game. And Isaiah Thomas still out. So obviously missing those guys. A little bit further down the list here, you've got George Hill. $6,400 on FanDuel. DraftKings, $6,900. And it's very consistent. I mean, outside of the disappointment in the best matchup against the Bulls, 18 fantasy points, he's getting you 30-plus fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. So you're definitely looking at him as an upside option, but he's also got a pretty safe floor there, right around 30 points. Playing up in pace a little bit here against Houston. Patrick Beverley, once again, questionable. Obviously, he gets a bump if Beverley doesn't go, but I'm not terribly concerned about him anyway. I think he's a fine cash game play at his price. Mike Conley, another option, $6,100 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's a nice price as well at $6,100. Same exact price. Obviously, New York, an easy matchup, especially if he gets the likes of Shane Larkin and Langston Galloway there. Don't know if he's going to need to do a whole lot is the concern here with the blowout, but Mike Conley at this price, definitely in play for me. Other options you've got at point guard, you've got the two-headed duo we could be ending up with tonight with Alexei Shved possibly missing tonight's game. You've got Shane Larkin and Langston Galloway. For me, Larkin's getting more minutes. He's got similar upside, and he's significantly cheaper. So for me, I'm going with Shane Larkin. On FanDuel, he's just $3,800, and on DraftKings, he's an even better price. Bargain bin over here at $3,500. So if I'm going with one of the two guys, I'm taking the guy with the minutes and the discount. So it would be Shane Larkin of the two guys. For me, I don't blame you if you go Langston Galloway, but it was like the option the other day with Shved and Langston Galloway. They had similar production, not similar price points. So for me, I'm taking the discount. Other options, you've got Aaron Brooks, $5,600 on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, he's got a nice price as well, $5,800. He doesn't have a ton of upside, but he's shown a decent amount recently, and 31-22 over his last two games. Doesn't have a great floor. His floor is under 20 points. So the best thing about Aaron Brooks, he's getting minutes. You do like the matchup against Charlotte. Neither one of Mo Williams or Kemba Walker are great defenders, so I think he's a fine option as well. And elsewhere at point guard, you could look at Zach LaVine if Ricky Rubio sits, but his price now at $5,000, really, really low floor. I'm just not a big fan of his tonight. So outside of that, I'll be moving on. Next up, we have shooting guard, James Harden. Many people's nemesis. Many people love him. You get him on a great day, you love him. You get him on a bad day, like Phoenix, you don't love him. I was on him both days, 66 and 24 fantasy points. Maybe would have been nice to get somewhere in between both times. But James Harden tonight against Indiana, playing down in pace. Indiana, one of the slower paced teams in the league, 20th in pace, 3rd in points allowed per game. I don't think Harden's a must today, so I'm going to pay or stay away James Harden. I'm staying away from James Harden outside of tournaments. I'm going with more of a balanced lineup tonight. I don't blame you if you play him, but at $11,000 on FanDuel and $11,200 on DraftKings, I don't think he's a necessity. Obviously, there's a possibility that he has one of his James Harden games, 30, 10, and 8, something of that nature, 60 fantasy points. So significant upside, easily the highest upside of any player on the board tonight. So if you're going that route, I don't blame you, but I just don't think he's completely necessary. Although without a lot of high-priced studs, especially at small forward, which we'll get to in a minute, you could easily fit James Harden in your lineup tonight, and I don't blame you. But I think for my cash games, I may be going the more balanced route, but we'll see what kind of value opens up throughout the day. Also, shooting guard, other options, Jimmy Butler and Klay Thompson. Neither one ruled out for tonight yet, so Butler seems unlikely to go again today, but Klay Thompson probably the better of the two, but either way, I won't be playing either one first game back. If you want an interesting tournament option, excuse me, Kevin Martin, bad matchup, but this guy's starting to show a little bit of versatility here. After 2 straight games with 0 assists, I mean absolutely 0 in 88 minutes. He had 9 assists last game, so you can look at Kevin Martin in the tournament, sitting at $6,400 on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's got a fair price as well over there at $6,000. So only tournament play for me, obviously, against a tough Utah team. Still don't like to target guys against there. Nothing really has changed. So I think he's a fine tournament option. Bradley Beal, interesting play once again. $5,800. A little bit of disappointment against Sacramento, the ideal matchup there, but it was a blowout. He actually played really well in 27 minutes. Shot 8 for 13, 29.75 fantasy points on DraftKings. So I like Bradley Beal at his cheap price tag once again. $5,800 on both sites. I think he's a fine play. Marcus Smart is back from his indiscretion, his suspension for his windmill punch to the groin of Matt Bonner there. So I'm not playing him. You could look at Evan Turner now, but seems to me we all know how volatile he is. If he's not running the point, he doesn't have a whole lot of upside in my book. So I think he's going to be a stay away. He may be a popular play tonight coming off the big game, but I'm not chasing there. I know he's got a low floor. He could still get you 20 to 25. He may be a fine cash game play, but I just don't imagine a ton of upside, assuming that Smart is a full go coming back, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. Avery Bradley, as usual, a nice swerve off of Evan Turner if you want to go a different route. He's sitting there at $6,000 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's $5,800. So fine play there as well. Other options you've got at shooting guard. My boy, the grind father, Tony Allen. I will continue to play Tony Allen until the wheels fall off or until his price keeps rising too much higher. But Courtney Lee missed the last game. It's possible that he misses again tonight. Tony Allen pretty locked in his 30 to 35 minutes anyway, but 34 and 25 fantasy points his last two games. $4,800 at shooting guard on FanDuel. DraftKings, $5,000 at small forward. So get yourself some Tony Allen if you need a filler. I love Tony Allen as a filler. I like him. Tournaments, cash games alike. The guy can kind of do it all. Doesn't need to score to pay off his tag. Big fan of Tony Allen once again. Elsewhere at shooting guard, it's pretty gross. No thanks for me. I'm probably going to be pretty much exclusively on these few guys. The only exception to that rule, Bojan Bogdanovic. Not even sure that's how you say his name. I'll have to look that one up. But $3,700, and he's a shooting guard on DraftKings only. On FanDuel, he's a small forward at $4,000. But the guy's getting minutes. He's playing great basketball. You look at his last four games, 30, 17, 34, 27 fantasy points, near minimum salary. So if you need a punt, that's the way I'm going against a Boston team that is not exactly a great defensive team, 24th in points allowed this season. So definitely a matchup that can be exploited there. Other than that, moving on to small forward, Gordon Hayward, questionable, a grade 1 MCL sprain. I can't imagine that he plays in this game. He's the future of that franchise. As of right now, he favors Rudy Gobert. With the team obviously out of contention, this game means nothing. They should beat Minnesota easily without him. I can't imagine that he goes. So he's going to be a stay away for me. You've got guys like Draymond Green up top here who it's not an ideal matchup, but he could still pay off his salary. There's not a lot of top options. I would say he has the highest upside of any of these options, but I don't think he's a necessity either. I'm not touching Andrew Wiggins against Utah. He's just been bad recently. I mean, outside of a game against New York, which, let's be honest, most NBA players should have a good game against the New York Knicks right now. So I'll go ahead and slide that one out of the way and not look at that too much. But Andrew Wiggins, just not for me right now. He just doesn't have enough upside. His floor is barely even 20 points right now. And just no thanks for me in that tough matchup. Trevor Ariza, once again, pretty much the de facto small forward play. Anytime you've got especially a small slate like this one, $5,900 on FanDuel and on DraftKings, $6,300 is still a little bit pricey there, but you know what you're getting out of him. More often than not, he's going to play. He's going to play his 30 to 35 minutes, maybe even upwards of 40, and he's going to get you 30 plus fantasy points. I mean, recent production's been incredible. 44, 33, 35, 35. So an alternative to Harden, a guy with obviously nowhere near upside, but a similar floor, surprisingly, recently. Trevor Ariza. Big fan of his tonight. Elsewhere, at small forward, not a ton of guys I'm in love with here. Jay Crowder, $5,200, small forward on FanDuel. $5,000 as a power forward on DraftKings. So he's certainly in play. He's playing big minutes right now. He's producing. He's a guy that can kind of fill up the stat sheet. And Brooklyn has really struggled recently. Really against every position, but especially against small forwards and power forwards. So I'm a big fan of Jay Crowder tonight. Other options, you've got Corey Brewer, more reserved for a tournament for me. $5,500 at small forward on FanDuel. $54 at shooting guard on DraftKings. So I don't think he's a terrible option, but more reserved for tournaments for me in that slower paced game. Elsewhere, you can look at Jeff Green, coming off a couple of really good performances. $5,000 at small forward on FanDuel. And a little bit pricey at $5,700 on DraftKings. Think at that point I'd rather just pay a little bit more for Trevor Ariza, but I think he's a fine play still. Elsewhere, you could look at a guy like Mike Dunleavy if you wanted. I mean, he's still getting right around 30 points. Obviously, just a tournament play. Kind of cooled off from his hot streak last game. If you need a cheap play, I don't mind him, but not really going that route. Like I mentioned, Bogdanovic, $4,000 small forward on FanDuel. He's going to be my punt of choice there at the small forward position on FanDuel. Moving on to power forward tonight. Not a lot of elite options. You've got Pau Gasol, the most expensive player on the board, and he's in a great spot against Charlotte, weak bigs, but we've been noticing it recently. His minutes are in a decline. He hasn't had to do a whole lot for the Bulls recently. And even coming off a great performance against Detroit, 27 and 10, 40 fantasy points last game, but just 31 minutes. Not sure that I can pay his price tag tonight at 8,800 in this matchup. It is ideal, but I think I'm going to be paying down a little bit more. I'm going to be going with a guy like Derek Favors, especially if Gordon Hayward sits. $7,500 on FanDuel. Another nice price on DraftKings as well, $7,800. I think underpriced at both sites right now for this matchup. He's got great upside coming off a 41-point performance against, 41 fantasy point, I should say, against Golden State. Big fan of Derek Favors tonight. I think he's got to be my top dollar for dollar option at power forward. You can look at a guy like Zach Randolph, 78 and 72 on DraftKings, but big blowout concern there. Obviously, New York not going to have an answer for him or Pau Gasol down low. You just wonder if the game stays close enough for him to pay off his tag. So more of a tournament play for me. Nikola Mirotic finally slowed down to 24 minutes last game, 18 fantasy points. Tournament-only option. You know he's got upside. Not a cash game guy for me at his price tonight. Another guy I like a bunch, Thad Young, $6,000 on FanDuel. DraftKings once again, $5,700. A little bit of a discount for you there. We know how bad the Boston front court has been and seemingly will be for quite some time. So still like to target them. Big fan of Thad Young tonight in that mid-range there. Donatas Motiejunas, not in a great spot, but once again with Terrence Jones out, I much prefer him over Josh Smith. He's getting it done. 37, 26, 29 fantasy points last 3 games. Playing upper 30s, big minutes. $5,600 on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's at $6,000. I don't mind either price, despite the tough matchup. He's soaking up minutes. So I'm a big fan of guys playing big minutes despite a tough matchup. So I will still be targeting him. You can look at Brandon Bass, $5,500 on FanDuel. DraftKings, once again, discount, $5,300. So I think he's a fine option as well. If you're looking for cheap plays, not a lot of guys I'm a big fan of. Chris Humphries, Cody Zeller, both could miss tonight's games. Monitor that situation as the day goes forward. A little bit of uncertainty there. Drew Gooden is a guy who's been soaking up some minutes. Low 20s in most games recently, producing right around 15 to 22 fantasy points. So if you need a punt, I think he's a fine option at $3,800 on FanDuel. On DraftKings at $3,400 if you just need a punt. But don't expect huge things. If you get your 15 to 20 in a cash game, that'll be fine for you there. Elsewhere, you can look at Marvin Williams, $4,100 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, $4,300. Only if Cody Zeller sits. Even there, still a little bit of a risky play. So not a guy I'm targeting heavily, but I think he's a fine option if Zeller ends up sitting. Moving over to center. To pay or stay away, Rudy Gobert. Man, it's tough for me to say, but at his price, his recent production, I'm staying away from Rudy Gobert tonight. Utah's supposed to win this game handily. He has 18 and 21 fantasy points his last 2 games. If he's not pulling down 18 to 20 rebounds, he has zero upside at this price. No thanks for me tonight. Don't think I'll be paying that route. But if you're looking at DraftKings, we've got some bargain prices. They have a sale on centers tonight. Al Jefferson, $6,800. Brook Lopez, $6,500. Just considering these matchups, obviously, Al Jefferson going against Joakim Noah, a solid defender, but the bigs of the Bulls have not been great this season. So they're not the elite defensive team they once were. Obviously, Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler being out doesn't help. But I'm going to take the discount. I like Al Jefferson a ton. I like Brook Lopez a ton against that really weak Boston front court. Tyler Zeller, Kelly Olynyk, Brandon Bass. Really not anyone who can contend with him down low. Maybe you see Kelly Olynyk get some extra run for some additional size down there. And if that's the case and you believe in that, $3,800 at center on DraftKings for Kelly Olynyk and on FanDuel, $4,200. So his minutes finally looked like they're trending up. 29 in his last game. Was playing right around 20 each game before that, but he has upside. So generally, when they need some size, Olynyk gets some extra run, so I like him as a tournament play. But if you're looking on DraftKings, man, like I said, there's just some really cheap prices with Jefferson, Lopez, even Joakim Noah himself, $6,400. So big fan of that. Roy Hibbert going against Houston. We know how bad they've been down low recently. Can't rebound, especially with Terrence Jones out right now. And Roy Hibbert, as much as I hate to say his name and tell you his name, he's playing pretty well recently. 17 and 7. 12-4, 20-8, 16-6 over his last 4 games. $4,900 on FanDuel. I don't mind him at all tonight. If you're going cheap, $5,300 on. I'm sorry, the $4,900 was DraftKings. $5,300 on FanDuel. So do not think he's a terrible option. And that's going to wrap it up for the positional analysis there. Once again, just want to remind you, take it easy right now with the NBA. A lot of uncertainties, a lot of guys sitting. Playoff spots, non-playoff spots, contenders, non-contenders, injuries. I mean, you got guys like Justin Hamilton, who wasn't on the injury report, still didn't play last game. A lot of uncertainties, so definitely monitor Twitter, monitor all the beat writers, see what's going on everywhere before locking in your lineups. If you got any questions, find me at BigItaly42. We are at DF Cafe. Find our great content starting off the week once again at dailyfantasycafe.com. I will see you all again tomorrow with Spencer Limbach. I'm checking out.